Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of TFT Hyperroll with Artark. Today I am going to be showing you a build that no one should ever force. Only do this if you get a sign from the TFT gods that it's going to work. Let me just get the usual out of the way. Please like, comment, subscribe, click the stuff that does good stuff. Sound good? Great. Let's get to the stuff. Now, there are lots of interesting places you can go if you start with mascots like Galio and Nasus, but if it throws a Sivir at you, you may want to consider civilian Sureshots. Our first set of augments are blah, but they're gray tier and not worth rolling, so we will just grab the Thieves' Gloves and hope things get better in the future. Sivir is going to be your item holder for Samira, who is your ultimate carry in this build. 3 perfect items are going to be Infinity Edge, Rage Blade, and Last Whisper. As we speed through the first fight, I'll tell you things you probably already know. Civilian and Mascot are both team-wide augments. Mascot will allow your team to heal a little bit, and Civilian will allow them to gain more mana as long as a Civilian champ is still standing. For items, my first loyalty is to the Samira items, and so Infinity Edge, Last Whisper, Rage Blade, Sparring Glove works into Last Whisper. Now, what is nice in this build is it's got a lot of little healing built in. Not only does the Mascot trait provide some healing, but Sivir also heals every time she throws her ult. You're going to add in your Sureshots as you go, which are Senna, and then Samira, which is going to be your key carry towards the end, and finally Aphelios, who you also want to make strong because Aphelios is a 5 cost. For our next item, there isn't anything really fantastic here. Infinity Edge will make a good item on Aphelios for later, so I'm going to go ahead and grab the BF sword for now with the thoughts of maybe putting that together later. The thing with Sureshots is that their attack damage is going to increase a little bit every few seconds. It doesn't really take off until you get to 4, but even at 2, you're going to see some results as their attack damage increases over the course of a match. As for item priority, I would put Rage Blade first because the faster Sivir attacks, the more she'll be able to heal the front line. But it's time for our next augment. Healing is very, very good on this build just because you're relying on other types of healing to keep you going. You're not necessarily building healing items, so if you can get it from an augment to supplement, that's perfect. This is also a great build to use to bring threats in to supplement your frontline and make it tankier. If I have decided to go Sureshots, I'm hoping that I have a very strong start, because the mid-game for Sureshots can get pretty weak, since your ultimate carries are 4s and 5s, and the team won't come together until you get them, so you need to make sure you have room for that transition. Keeping our key items in mind, we head into the next item selection. There's the bow that will make the Last Whisper, and right under the bow is a Samira. So let's show the transition. People have asked, what do you mean when you say transfer from? I mean exactly that. I'm going to sell the champion and then put the right items onto the new champion and then potentially put the old champion back in. In this case, Nasus isn't particularly strong, so I switch over to Alistair and I put Sivir back in because she will provide some healing. We have now fully entered mid-game for this build, and why it's rough is because you don't get the full Sureshot bonus until you get to 4, and that is going to require Aphelios unless you get a Sureshot heart, but you can see Samira can hold her own. I managed to 2-star the Samira, thank you Ava, and I moved Rammus down into the corner with them to protect against any possible hacker coming in, or hopefully to protect against a Talon coming in as well, but we did manage to handle them and win this round. It is time for our final augment in the game, and I am hoping for something that will close this out, and the Senna augment can really help. What this does is gives additional attack damage to herself and her adjacent allies, which means I want to go ahead and move Sivir over next to Senna for now, and then I also brought in an Echo to the team to add Aegis, so the entire team is going to get some magic resist. Given the item choices I had, I go ahead and put a Sunfire Cape on Echo because he will jump into people's backlines and that will allow him to set them on fire. I went ahead and gave Echo the Spear of Sojin because his cast is pretty good and it'll give him a nice shield, and we have hit a point in the build where I am expecting it to kind of start to falter as we don't yet have the 4 sure shots. We have 2 spaces left open on the team, and we really need 2 5-cost champions to fill them. We want to finish our Civilian with Janna, and we want to finish our Sureshot with Aphelios. That is a lot to ask, so I'm holding back some rolling right now so I can save gold till I have a better chance of getting the champions I need. Couple of item choices, and I am thinking Aphelios items here, and the Rage Blade is just a fantastic one, so I can't pass that up if I have the opportunity, and I can use Urgot as the item holder. Time to open the Anvil, and it will be the Infinity Edge. In my head, I had been questioning my rush to put a Spear of Sojin on Echo, but I wanted to hold up in the mid-game, and luckily Ava had my back and gave me the Infinity Edge I needed right here. And this really is the scary part of Sure Shots, because if you don't get those 2 5-cost champions, you do not complete 2 key parts of your build. Civilian will never get the full boost, nor will Sure Shot. Luckily, this person backed out of this fight. We do a little bit of rolling and we are able to find Aphelios and put him in. Now, you have to choose which weapon Aphelios is going to use, and let me take a moment to explain them. And I'm sorry I didn't mouse over each one, but Duskwave does damage to the enemy's backline in an area effect, and is best to use when you have carry items like Rage Blade and Infinity Edge. The Blinding Eclipse does a stun to the backline. It's good for when Aphelios doesn't have any items or isn't being used as a carry. The Onslaught is a single target takedown, so if you are facing teams that have Super Mech or something like that, you might want to consider going with Onslaught. Since I'm running carry items and we haven't seen any Super Mechs, I'd go with Duskwave. And this team is likely the Sure Shot's worst enemy. It's a heart team with a lot of power. You can see how quickly they can reach in and destroy your backline. But even though we suffered that devastating loss, we are into the top 4, and now on a frantic search for Janna, because she is going to bring the Citizen to full. There she is, and this will complete our team. For our penultimate item, we get offered a Warmogs, which is something I want to put on Rammus just to make him tankier. We need to be able to hold teams back a little bit more going forward. Now, I'm going to completely forget that there is an Anvil on my bench with another item in it, because I am trying to both roll for the next round and get the 2-star Aphelios, who I immediately want to move into the corner. With the Quicksilver, he is pretty safe from CC, and will get the bonus from Senna, which will make him really strong. Because Alistair has some dodge chance, I leave him out front, and then am relying on Aphelios and Samira to clean house on the teams. Samira is an ace, so if they get down below 12%, she will execute them, and I'm counting on Aphelios to be the one to get them down that low. The only problem with this setup is it landlocks Aphelios for a little while, so once everything's out of range, he doesn't do any damage, but once he's back in, boom, things go down pretty quickly. I finally remember I have another item coming to me, and there's nothing really super exciting in here that I would have otherwise missed. Blue buff, Shroud of Stillness, they don't really help what I'm doing right now. It's between Static Shiv and Guard Breaker, but I'm not facing teams with a really heavy shield, so I decide to go with the Static Shiv, put it on Sivir so that it can increase her attack speed, and that will also increase the healing that she turns out. And you are about to see why all those little bits of healing that are built into this build mean so much. Between the mascots, the Celestial Blessing, and everything else, that is going to be the difference maker here, as Aphelios is able to heal just enough to do enough damage to finish off LeBlanc and keep us in the match. I went ahead and pulled Alistair over in the hopes that that would attract Fiddle onto more of the front line than the back line, so that the back line could survive Talia's ult, which is really why I also brought Aegis into this fight. As I mentioned, there are a lot of magic-based comps, and it worked out perfect here for the win. Sureshot. It's a fantastic build when you get to the end, but it's a little nerve-wracking to get there. Only do it if you see an absolute sign. And as always, have an absolutely awesome day.